Everyone, Carlos Flores, back on basics. So today we're going to talk about skill streaming, and I'll give you the definition of what skill streaming means to me and how it can help you move ahead in reaching your goals. But before we do that, subscribe to my YouTube channel, back on basics 9985. Hit the notification button so that you can get notified of any new videos. Hit the like button. Skill streaming, I'll let you know in a little bit. And so, if you have any suggestions on what videos to do, let me know and I'll give you my take on it. Put it in the comment section, or connect with me on Instagram at Back on Basics, or on Facebook at Carlos Flores Jr. I had hair in there, and maybe not that much beard. That picture is very old. I need to update the picture. So, what does skill streaming mean, right? So, skill streaming is actually a term that they actually use for a succession of skills that you're learning, so that way you can get to an end point, or that way you can learn something through multiple steps, learning the different skills, how it is. Remember when I showed you the Own It online website, and we typed in, I think we typed in doctor, or we typed in optometrist. I remember that now. So, and then we opened up the skills, right? And it was detailed skills. So skill streaming means what you're doing is kind of putting on a roadmap of skills, and you're breaking down the skills so that way you can practice them individually. And eventually what you do is, once you practice them, then you start integrating them together. So the next one should be that you practice is on its own, but the previous ones, now you're starting to use them a little bit better. And skill streaming is very important in, not only communicating with people, but interacting with people. But at the same time, it's very important for somebody that, it's going to school. So let's say your kids are are starting school. Let's say they start at kindergarten, right? So what are the skills? And skill streaming, an example of a skill streaming is actually the Common Core. I know that Common Core, some people love it, some people don't love it. But the way that it breaks down the skills by grades, by different Common Core, is very important, because it actually teaches you what your child should be practicing, right? From kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, right? It's a roadmap, but it breaks down the skills. Like, for example, right? My groups, my 5th and 6th grader groups, actually my 6th grade groups, that are practicing math right now, we're practicing long division with 2 digits that divide the product. And so 2-digit division, that's interesting because inside is multiple, right? We already gone with 1 digit. So let's say, right, 40 divided by 4, right? That's an easy one. But at the beginning it wasn't, because that was a skill that you learn in 5th and at the end of 4th grade. If you follow the Common Core standards, then you will see what your child is learning in language arts, math, and writing, right? So that way, as you're learning a new skill, it builds on the bigger picture, so that way you know what you're practicing, right? Not a lot of people know that. And so there are websites that you can go to that you can actually look at Common Core and the roadmap that you start in kindergarten and it ends in 12th grade. And so it's a map. It doesn't mean that everybody will get the skills within the amount of time that you're gonna get, right? So and that's just one example. The K through 12 is some example. So if you Google Common Core standards, you will see that, it maybe begins with reading, right? In kindergarten, right? I have to go back and I have to refresh the Common Core standards for language arts in writing. And so it may be asking, thus the student will learn, at this point, the student will learn to differentiate, or like know the difference between uppercase and lowercase letters. And so again, that's a skill, right? Because when you're in kindergarten, you're learning your ABCs, you're learning your A-E-I-O-U's, right? Or U's. And so you're learning all of that, and so eventually you're going to be practicing lowercase and uppercase, right? Capital letters and just lowercase letters. And so that is one of the Common Core skills that a kindergarten should be starting to practice towards the end of kindergarten, but should get to a point where they're repeating it, and then they're practicing some more, and getting to the point of mastering towards the end of first grade. And so again, that's just an example, right? When you get to 12th grade, that's when you look at things like, some people look at geometry, some people look at algebra or algebra 2, very intense algebra. Some students are doing calculus by that time. And so if you follow the roadmap and you have your students, your children, your family members, whoever's in school, they practice those skills, right? At the time that they're being taught in the classroom. It's kind of like when I teach psychology online, and then again, this is online, right? We start with the basics, right? What is psychology? What are some of the theories in psychology? Who are the important people in psychology? What are some of the specific things within the theory in psychology, right? Like, for example, one of the things that I like to go over in my psychology class at University of Phoenix is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it shows, right? And go back and look at the video on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, by the way, and because it shows the different steps that Maslow said, that even though his hierarchy of needs, which is a triangle or a pyramid, however you wanna call it, even though there's steps, like which starts with a physiological, which, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you sleepy? Are you awake? Are you rested? Right? All the way to the top, which is self-actualization. That means that you are putting everything together that you learn at their lower levels, and now you're putting it all together, and you're, I want to say, unstoppable, because at that point you're putting everything together. You're just fine-tuning little things. But what Maslow said was that his hierarchy of needs is fluid. You can actually, in one situation, you could be at the top, self-actualizing, but in others, you can be at the first rung, at the physiological, or the second rung, safety. I mean, safety is very important nowadays. I mean, there's so many things going on that are good, that are not so good, and so safety is very important for everybody. That's a big thing. And so if you feel safe, if people make you feel safe, then you're practicing those skills of how to be safe, how to do that, how to make sure that you get to where you need to get to. And so, again, that's what I teach, right? We spent a week in teaching Maslow's, but then there's an assignment that they have to do. So that way they can show mastery or even approaching mastery. And then if not, then I follow it up the next week, even before we begin the next topic, just going over, right, the hierarchy of needs. So that way it solidifies and they can continue practicing on their own. So again, that's a Common Core. And so that's skill streaming. So it's a stream of skills that are separated, that says that this is the one that people have found to be the important one to start with, and then the others just build on that foundation. Remember, I've told you, basic foundation, right? Basic foundation means that these things, your foundation needs to be solid in order for you to keep going forward, right? And what have I recommended? It's for you to do 3 steps at a time. Once you're done with one of the steps, that one goes out, a new one comes in. So no more than 3 steps at a time, because that way your mental capacity will be optimized and you will be able to get to your goals or get to the end point of an activity faster or more prepared. And so again, skill streaming is very important to do. Another example, right? Let's just put aside school for a little bit. Karate or any martial arts sports, right? What do? You build on skills that the sensei or the master or whoever has the highest rank and the teacher is teaching you what to do. You begin. I did jiu-jitsu for about 2 years, Brazilian jiu-jitsu for about 2 years. And so the first things that we did were how to fall, how to stay balanced, how to use somebody's body and somebody's momentum to get the upper hand. And so those were just they were very basic, but you practice and practice and practice and practice. And so that way you get to a point where it becomes automatic. Remember what I've said, right? If you keep on practicing something, eventually it will become second nature because it will be ingrained in your mind. And your mind is going to tell your body, oh, we're in this situation. Now you need to pull the guard, right? Now you need to bring the person closer. Now you need to close the, just close the loop with your feet, with your legs. So that way you'll be in control. And so that's what skill streaming is about. And so skill streaming could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So let's say somebody wants to be a mechanic. Again, right? Everything starts with a basic skill, and then it builds and it builds and it builds. And then if you're going to school, even if you're going to a tech school, it builds and builds. You practice hands-on, and then you have a test or you have some kind of assessment, so that way that you've gotten to either approaching mastery or mastery of the skills. Because if not, then you'll go back and practice some more and learn some more. And if you do, or if you did, then now you move forward. And now you're learning, you're adding more skills. But it's a stream because it's one skill after another. It's one skill after another. And that's how you learn. So that's the importance of skill streaming. It's the same thing that you do if you're teaching a dog how to listen or how to walk right next to you instead of pulling you ahead, or how to train a cat to go in his or her litter. And so again, you start with a basic step, and you go and you go and you go and you repeat and you repeat, and then mastery and approaching mastery, and then you get to a point where it's done, and then you get to start another one. So the importance of skill streaming is very important, because skill streaming is kind of like a roadmap of whatever you want to do, starting whatever you want to do and finishing whatever you want to do. So, for example, for me, I'm actually learning how to be a YouTuber. I'm not the most refined YouTuber. I can speak eloquently and everything like that, but I'm still learning different things. So the basic thing that I did is what equipment I need, and I'm still looking for different kind of equipment. I have lights that I use so that way you can see me really well. I have my blue snowball so that way you can hear me. You can pick up the smallest sound. And then after recording all that video, Now I have to process it. I have to give it a title. I have to make sure that I process the video so that way it's ready, so that when I upload it to YouTube, it's ready for you to listen. It's ready for you to see, right? I'm trying to give you visuals so that way you see that these streaming, it's life balance, right? It's mind body balance. Remember, I've said that mind body balance, and it's life balance. And so all of these videos build upon each other. The nice thing about these videos is that, excuse me, you can start with whichever video you feel more comfortable with, or whichever video you already started practicing with, and then build on it, because every skill adds on the other. Every skill adds on the other. And so skill streaming is very important. There's always a roadmap to do that. Whenever you go to college and you say, I'm gonna be a doctor, there's a roadmap. There's required classes that you have to take every quarter or every semester, depending on where you're going. And eventually you have assessments throughout. And if you have successfully fulfilled your roadmap or your skill stream, then that means that you have earned a degree. So again, that's the importance of skill streaming. So use it in life. I mean, if you're trying to teach somebody something, break it down into smaller skills so that way they'll be able to go skill by skill by skill and adding on it. So that way by the end they'll be using everything. They'll be approaching mastery, or they'll be mastering the skill. So the importance of today's video is, remember that you don't have to do everything all at once in order for you to get to where you want to get to, in order for you to get your goals done. You can actually break it down into smaller skills, so that way you'll be able to get to where you want to get to using the compounding principle, and at the same time you'll be using the skill streaming effect, because you will be doing one skill learning at a time, and then you start, as soon as you learn a new one, then you add it, and now you practice. And then as soon as you practice and you feel like you're practicing, now you're trying to master it, right? So that way you can get to a different point. It's a sport, it's YouTubing, it's videography, it's writing a paper, is doing an assignment. I mean, whatever you want to do, you can actually break down the different skills, so that way you can get to where you want to get to successfully. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, Back on Basics 9985. Hit the notification button for any new videos. Hit the like button. Skill streaming. I mean, when you hear the word skill streaming, you don't realize that you're breaking down into smaller skills, so that way you can be building upon the last one that you've actually learned, and then you practice based on the last one that you practice, and now you build on it, and then eventually you master based on the learning, the practicing, the exploring, and now you master it. Till next time, Back on Basics.